The B-52 Stratofortress. How a 1950s bomber became a 21st century legend. Few military aircraft have a story as unlikely and as enduring as the Boeing B-52 Stratofortress. Designed in the early Cold War to carry nuclear weapons across oceans, the B-52 evolved into a long-range conventional strike platform, a psychological symbol of American air power and one of the most combat-proven bombers in history. More than a machine, it became a strategic tool that shaped deterrence, influenced wars, and rewrote what service life can mean for a combat aircraft. 1. Why the United States needed the B-52. To understand the B-52, you have to step into the tense atmosphere of the late 1940s. World War II had ended, but peace did not last. The U.S. and the Soviet Union entered a rivalry defined by ideology, nuclear weapons, and a constant fear of surprise attack. In this era, strategic bombers were not just weapons, they were insurance policies. Before reliable intercontinental ballistic missiles became the backbone of nuclear deterrence, the United States depended on long-range bombers to deliver nuclear payloads and to signal strength. The U.S. Air Force needed an aircraft that could fly extremely far, carry heavy loads, and remain credible against increasingly sophisticated air defenses. Boeing's earlier B-47 Stratojet was fast and modern for its time, but it was not enough for truly intercontinental missions with heavy payloads. The next step had to be larger, longer-ranged, and more flexible. That requirement gave birth to the B-52 program. 2. From concept to reality, the birth of the Stratofortress. The B-52's early development was shaped by rapid changes in technology and strategy. Initially, post-war bomber thinking still carried some influence from piston-engine aircraft and early jet designs. But advances in jet propulsion, aerodynamics, and materials pushed designers toward an aircraft that looked radically different from earlier bombers. Boeing iterated through multiple design ideas before arriving at the familiar shape. A large, swept-wing bomber with 8 jet engines mounted in pairs under the wings. This configuration supported high subsonic speed, long range, and the ability to lift heavy payloads. The prototype, the XB-52, first flew in the early 1950s, and the aircraft entered operational service in the mid-1950s. Even at the beginning, the B-52 stood out. It was large, complex, and designed around the idea that the mission could be global. It was also built with room to grow, an underrated reason it could adapt across decades. 3. The Cold War role. Nuclear deterrence on a global scale. In the 1950s and 1960s, the B-52's primary mission was nuclear deterrence. The logic was simple, brutal, and central to Cold War stability. If the Soviet Union believed the United States could respond decisively to a nuclear strike, it would be less likely to strike in the first place. B-52 crews trained constantly. They practiced long missions, refueling in midair, navigating across oceans, and preparing for routes that might take them near or through hostile territory. At various points, American strategy relied on keeping nuclear-armed bombers ready to launch at a moment's notice. This was not just military readiness. It was political messaging, a form of strategic communication. The aircraft also functioned as a visible third leg of the U.S. nuclear triad: bombers, land-based missiles, and submarine-launched missiles. Unlike missiles, bombers could be recalled after launch, offering political leaders flexibility during crises. That recallability made strategic bombers uniquely valuable in moments when tension could either escalate or be diffused. 4. Vietnam. The B-52 becomes a conventional war machine. The Vietnam War marked a turning point. The B-52 had been built for nuclear war, but it became deeply associated with conventional bombing in Southeast Asia. Beginning in the mid-1960s, the United States used B-52s in large-scale bombing campaigns. One of the most famous was Operation Arc Light in which B-52s delivered massive conventional bomb loads against enemy positions, supply routes, and suspected base areas. These missions demonstrated something crucial. The B-52 could be adapted into a conventional heavy hitter, capable of saturating large zones with explosives. But the Vietnam War also exposed the bomber's vulnerabilities. As North Vietnamese air defenses improved, especially with Soviet-supplied surface-to-air missiles, B-52 missions became increasingly dangerous. Losses occurred, and tactics had to evolve. Crews relied on electronic countermeasures, formation strategies, route planning, and fighter support. It became a contest between the bomber's destructive capacity and the defender's ability to detect, track, and kill it. Operation Linebacker 2, the most famous B-52 campaign. In late 1972, the B-52 played a central role in what is often seen as its most dramatic moment of the Vietnam War. Operation Linebacker 2, sometimes called the Christmas bombing. Over roughly 11 days, B-52s conducted intensive strikes against targets in and around Hanoi and Haiphong. This campaign remains controversial, but from a military historical perspective, it demonstrated the B-52's ability to sustain high-tempo strategic bombing under heavy defenses. It also forced rapid tactical learning. Adjustments in routes, timing, electronic warfare, and mission planning were made as losses and risks became clear. Linebacker 2 cemented the B-52's image, both in American memory and among adversaries, as an aircraft that could deliver overwhelming force. 5. After Vietnam, reinvention and modernization. Many aircraft become obsolete when the world changes. The B-52 did not, because it kept transforming. After Vietnam, the bomber continued serving as a nuclear deterrent platform, but it also took on new conventional roles. The rise of precision-guided munitions and standoff weapons allowed the B-52 to strike from farther away, reducing exposure to heavy air defenses. The aircraft's large payload capacity, long endurance, and ability to carry a wide variety of weapons made it an ideal missile truck as modern warfare evolved. Over the decades, the B-52 received upgrades in avionics, navigation, communications, and weapons integration. Its basic airframe remained remarkably useful, while its systems evolved to match new operational demands. 6. The Gulf War and beyond, a bomber for the modern age. When the Gulf War began in 1991, many observers viewed strategic bombers as relics of Cold War thinking. The B-52 proved otherwise. It flew long-range missions, delivered large numbers of conventional munitions, and supported coalition operations with sustained strike capability. The conflict showcased an important truth. In conventional war, mass still matters, and an aircraft that can carry huge payloads over long distances provides commanders with unique options. In later conflicts, such as NATO operations in the Balkans and U.S. operations in Afghanistan and Iraq, the B-52 continued to serve. It was used not only for large strike packages, but also for close air support in certain circumstances, loitering for extended periods and delivering precision weapons when called upon. That may sound surprising for a strategic bomber, but it reflects the aircraft's flexibility when paired with modern targeting systems and coordinated air-ground operations. 7. What made the B-52's combat achievements so significant? When people talk about the B-52's achievements, they often mean more than kill counts or tonnage dropped. The B-52's true combat significance can be summarized in 5 enduring strengths. 1. Longevity as a combat platform. Very few aircraft remain relevant across multiple eras of warfare. The B-52 fought in conflicts separated by decades across completely different technological environments. 2. Payload and persistence. The aircraft can carry a very large weapons load and stay airborne for a long time, especially with aerial refueling. That combination gives commanders sustained pressure, not just quick strikes. 3. Adaptability to new weapons. From unguided bombs to modern precision munitions and standoff missiles, the B-52's value increased as weapons technology advanced. Often, the weapons improved faster than the bomber needed to. 4. Deterrence and psychological impact. Sometimes the most powerful effect is not the strike itself, but the message. The U.S. can project force over long distances. The B-52 became a symbol of that reality. 5. Cost-effectiveness compared to designing a new bomber every generation. While upgrades are expensive, retaining a proven airframe and continuously modernizing it can be strategically economical, especially when the aircraft's core strengths remain valuable. 8. The B-52 as a symbol, why it still matters. The B-52 is not just an aircraft. It's a historical bridge between the early Cold War and the present day. It witnessed the nuclear standoff, fought in Vietnam, reasserted its relevance after the Cold War, and continued flying in the era of precision warfare and networked operations. Its story is also a lesson in engineering philosophy. The B-52 was built with margins, physical and conceptual margins. It had room for upgrades, room for new missions, and room for evolving strategy. That, combined with strong maintenance culture and continuous modernization, allowed it to remain operational far beyond what most designers would have predicted. In the end, the B-52's greatest victory might be this. It refused to become obsolete. It kept proving that range, payload, and endurance are timeless advantages, and that a platform designed for one kind of war can, with smart adaptation, become essential in many others. Closing thought. In a world where technology changes rapidly, the B-52 Stratofortress stands as an exception, a 1950s bomber that continues to shape military thinking. Its combat record spans generations. Its presence still carries strategic weight, and its legend is not just about what it destroyed, but about how it endured.